If you feel like your curriculum is holding you hostage, something is off and it's not you. So this is not going to be something that's anti-curriculum. This is about freedom and wisdom from lived experience. Curriculum is meant to help you and your family and your children. It is not supposed to crush you. Curriculum is a tool, and I need you to look at it like that. Your whole homeschool is not your curriculum. Curriculum is a tool to your homeschool. It's meant to serve your family, not control it. Your curriculum is a guide, okay? I need you to think of it as a guide. And it's a framework, and it kind of lays out the steps for you and shows you where to go, right? It's not something that you owe your obedience and allegiance to. You did not buy curriculum to lose peace in your home. And a lot of times that's what ends up happening, is we kind of get held hostage by our own curriculum books. And that has happened to me before, and it was very frustrating. And a lot of times this happens without us even realizing it. And it's definitely happened to me a couple of times, and that was where I had to kind of reassess and say, okay, what am I doing? I had to kind of lay out the books and formulate a plan, formulate my thoughts, and ask myself if this is really where I want to go. But here's the great thing. You can change it. And that's what I love about homeschooling, is we are not held to anything other than the legal state standards. And for many of us, even in the states that are more difficult, I live in a difficult state, we can have a lot of control over material. So I know I can change my curriculum at any point. Nobody's going to come knocking on my door and asking me what curriculum I use. And actually, in 10 years of homeschooling, I've never once had anybody care from the state what I do. That, honestly, as long as I have the paperwork online and I update it, that's all they really care about. If you switch your curriculum, it doesn't mean that you're quitting or giving up. Okay, I want you to not feel the guilt of that. I am known as the curriculum switching queen. If I see that something is not serving me and is not helping my child, nope, immediately we're getting rid of it. I don't feel any guilt about it. I don't really care. If something is not working, it's not working. My child's education is way more important than that curriculum book. Which brings me to my next point, is you can teach curriculum any way that you want. So for instance, I have a child who leans more Charlotte Mason. His textbooks are more of like a traditional school type of book. One thing that I do is I alter the lessons a little bit. And you might have seen this if you follow me on my social media, especially like on Facebook and Instagram. What I did was I took his history book from Generations, because we love Generations history, and I slowed it down. I made the lessons shorter, like Charlotte Mason says, and I added in living books for the entire year. And it was so fun picking out all of those books. It's been a blast. And we have read some really great stories. It's February now, so we are more than halfway done with the year, and we have read some incredible living books throughout the entire school year. So one of the things that I figured out was I can teach this book any way that I want. I can add things. I can take away things. I don't have to do the curriculum exactly how it says. And I think a lot of new homeschool moms don't really realize this. You don't have to do the book the way the book says to do the book. That is a guide or a framework for you to use or to not use. Do it however you want. You can adapt your teaching method without abandoning the content, okay? Curriculum should bend to your family, not the other way around. You are not a hostage to that curriculum book. So my next point is doing too much is going to overwhelm your kids. So just as an FYI, doing too much each year doesn't make the kids smarter. It can actually really overwhelm them. And while we sometimes get ambitious, that's me. I'm talking to myself here. It is very easy to get ambitious. When you're planning out your new year, it's really easy to get a little bit too ambitious and plan too much, buy too much curriculum, or plan to do too much curriculum in the coming school year. I've done that. And sometimes you don't know what you can handle until you start. It's really easy to see when your kids are overloaded So kind of watch for those cues and those signals and make adjustments as needed, which leads me to my next idea here, and that is family style curriculum is going to help out your stress level. If you have more than one child, give family style learning a try. Family style learning is when you basically teach everybody from the same book, but you adjust the level with individual studies. So if I have a science book and it is a grade 6 science book, but I have a 6th grader, a 4th grader, and a 2nd grader, I might be reading out of that book for everybody, but the 2nd grader might be coloring a picture. The 4th grader might be writing a paragraph, and the 6th grader might be doing some research on the computer. Adjust your individual assignments, but you can read out of the same book. And that way you're doing one thing for all the kids. Now, this really isn't going to work with things like math. Math is very individualized, and reading and phonics, that's very individualized. But for some of those bigger subjects like history and electives and science, this can really work well, and it will save you a lot of time and money and stress too. One of the things that I really did that helped me out, and I talk about this a lot, I'm sorry, but teaching your kids to be independent learners really helps your homeschool, and it helps your home, and it helps you, mom. I don't think there's anything that I did more that helped my home and my home atmosphere and my homeschool more than teaching them to be independent. Because teaching independent learning means you can be a little bit more hands-off. That gives me my time back. So I know my son can sit here and do teaching textbooks on his own. I don't have to direct him. I don't have to ask him. I know that he's just automatically going to come in here and do it. And I'm going to have that hour that he's doing teaching textbooks to go start the laundry, go start some bread, do whatever I need to do around the house. Maybe I can use that time to prep one of his lessons for history. I know that I have that solid hour to do that. I know that when he starts IEW, I'm also going to have that time because he uses the streaming lessons. So I don't have to worry about that either. And we can strategically put those time blocks in where I need them in my day. So teaching your kids early on to be independent is very, very helpful. And it's just one of those things that you just kind of start with small things, like making sure that they're doing their work without you having to ask them. But you have to really guide and direct them throughout this whole thing. I am not one of those moms that sits over the shoulder of my child. I do teach. I do want to make that point. There are some subjects that I do teach personally, and there are some subjects that I don't. It's kind of a mix, which I like because I'm still involved, but I'm also really hands-off too. But that teaches him to take responsibility for his own work and for his own homeschool and his own education. And he's going to need this greatly when he goes to college in a couple of years. He's already asking about dual enrollment. So, you know, it's one of those things that, yes, sometimes it helps when your child has that natural personality for something like that, but it also can be taught. And it's a gradual thing. I started out with writing their assignments out on the board and telling them to do it without having to ask me. And we started out with a checklist, and I just had them check off everything that they did. And then we moved from there. You know, it was kind of just baby steps depending on, you know, which child I was working with and kind of with their personality. And, you know, now we're here. So if you can do this, if you have a child that would thrive with this, like my two kids, I hands down recommend it because it has brought a lot of peace to my home, and it's given me hours of my time back, and I can plan and do all the things that I need to do. Now, if you can't do that, I totally understand it. This is one of those things that's kind of individualized with each child. So if your child has learning disabilities and can't do that, I mean, that's totally understandable. You know, go with what your kids need. But if you are in a position to do that, it is very helpful. Homeschooling should not crush your family. Absolutely not. If something needs to change, change it. You're allowed to do that. And I encourage you to do that for your family's sake, for your sanity's sake. Change what you need to change, and don't be afraid to do it. A lot of homeschooling moms are really afraid to change things. Don't be afraid to change. You might end up finding the best thing by kind of reaching out and taking that chance to give something else a try. So tell me if you are struggling with something in homeschooling right now. Tell me what you're struggling with down below in the comments, and hopefully another mom will be able to reach out and help you with that. And I also have a homeschooling group, and it's in my description. If you are a Christian homeschooling mom, this is the place for you. It is a free community that I've created on Facebook, and there are some of the sweetest people in that group, and it's pretty much drama-free, which I love. So I will see you in the next video. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and happy homeschooling.